Good afternoon, folks. Right, so last night we had about 4.5 hours of coding, and we managed to get this job most of the way there. However, am I starting talks earlier? I'm not sure what you mean, JC Gaming Live. But we had one job left to do, and I didn't want to do that last night because I was tired, and this is a job that requires some degree of concentration. What we need to do is multi-thread this plugin. Because at the moment what happens is that, if we look down here, render happens every time OBS wants to update the screen or update the plugin, and it's done in the main thread. So if this plugin pauses for any reason at all, the entire of everything freezes until it finishes, which means all the stream pauses, which is not good. Now, in the tests we ran last night, it actually seemed to be running quite well. However, it's always got the possibility for a network glitch or something to cause a problem, because remember, I'm running across the network to find out if the game is what loco the game is doing, and I'm also using the file system to pull the files in. All this stuff feels like it can be done separately. So, what I'm going to do. Nice Rubku, 7-hour live stream. I can't wait to get back to doing train sim, but we'll get there. I'll get there eventually. When this PC arrives, hopefully Monday or Tuesday. In the meantime, we get on with some coding. So yes, we're doing network access, file system access, as well as actually rendering. And it feels like we need to basically make the render method just do rendering, and have another thread do all of the other stuff. That way, if it pauses or the disk blips because something else accesses it, the stream doesn't get affected by it. Am I going to start TSL earlier? That's the plan. I want to try and start Train Sim Live 8 o'clock, I think, is the time I'm thinking of starting. So I'm going to try it for a week and see how I get on. Now, that gives me an hour and a half less time to get ready for it, and all sorts of other problems. So I don't know how practical it's going to be, but we'll try it. So yeah, we'll try it out for a bit, and it might fail miserably. I should be able to at least get it, but ultimately to 9 o'clock. But I want to see if I can get 8 o'clock. I think would be a nice time to start. So that's where I want to go to. But yeah, family happens and so forth. So I can't guarantee that. Okay, so let's get on. Stop waffling and get on with some work. So the first thing where all the work is done, if we look at this render method. The majority of the work is in this all the work I don't like, essentially, for the render method is in this check loco. So what we need to do is get that out of there. So we're no longer going to call that in here. What we need to do now is still make sure that check loco is getting called. And check loco is essentially what I want to put into its own thread. So what I want to do there, I don't quite get what you're saying there, Flying Scotsman. What I want to do is have a thread, so I need to use threading for a start. That'll add threading in. Now if I think here, so when we construct it, we create that client there. At that point, let's not even do that there. Let's do create a thread. Threading is something that you can get. It enables you to run multiple things concurrently, which means you can, in theory, make better use of the CPU. You can overdo it because there are only, if you've got a Core i7, then you've got 8. In my case, 4 cores with 8 cores after hyperthreading. To be honest, once you get beyond 8 threads running in an environment, and that's 8 threads including everything else going on in the system, you start to reduce your benefits. You do some benefits, but I've seen some developers, spawn off hundreds of threads, and there's little point to it unless they're spending most of their time pausing. So, In here, I want to create a check loco thread, and then in here, I'm going to do check loco thread, new thread, and I'm going to run check loco. Is the thread I want to run. It's going to be a background thread because I don't want it to hold the plugin up. And let's start it. And I'm going to get rid of that from here as well. Let's just get all of that into check loco. So that's actually kicked off, and check loco is going to run in its own thread. However, at the moment, check loco is not really set up to do that. It's said to run once and never run again. So I'm going to start off by creating an instance to the client, and then in here I'm going to say while is running, and I'll fix that in a minute. And then I'm going to put... I don't know how many junk screenshots I keep getting because I keep accidentally hitting print screen. So that puts that in there. So this is now going to run over and over and over and over again, which is pretty cool. It's limited by the seconds between poll already, which means that if most of the time it's just going to immediately just spin round. What I might do is put a thread.sleep 1000. Sleep for a second. That way it's going to do very little work actually. You're going to get the AP Class 19 Mark III DVT. Excellent, they're very good. And the London Faversham collection. Nice. Good. So that has got that in. We still need to make is running work, but essentially check loco is now running in its own thread. There's a bunch of other stuff I need to do. This is going to crash horribly if I try and run it now, because there's now two things fighting over the same resources, and it's going to go horribly wrong. So I need to manage that in a minute, but let's get the main execution thread working first. So we've got this concept of is running. And we also need to say is running is true, so that means that when we start we'll spin round. Now I don't know if we ever actually get told when we're stopping, so at the moment there's not a lot I can do here to shut that down. What I think I will do is in here if check loco thread not equal null, which means it's already running, then check hey Tutus Master. So his running is false. Do I even need to do anything actually? No. What I need to say is if it's null, then do that. What I'm thinking is that I suspect when you make the plugin go away and come back, it might reconstruct it, and if it reconstructs it you might end up with multiple instances of thread leaking away. So this is at least going to protect from that happening, which means that now the thread is actually running. So now I need to actually make it to where the things that aren't in this function that can run away are actually not going to cause concurrent exceptions where you have things happening in different threads. So if you've got, when you have multiple threads running together, you have to manage how. Looking at my little task list I set up for today, spawn check loco in a new thread. Done. We haven't done that bit yet. We haven't done any of that. Refactor load texture. Right, so let's do that next. So at the moment, so this essentially has brought all the network traffic out into another thread, but at the moment I've got this lot that needs to happen. Let's put the locking in, because then once the locking's in we can see why we need to do the file handling. So essentially in here, right, so looking at my little task list I set up for today, spawn check loco in a new thread. Done. We haven't done that bit yet. We haven't done any of that. Refactor load texture. Right, so let's do that next. So at the moment, so this essentially has brought all the network traffic out into another thread, but at the moment I've got this lot that needs to happen. Let's put the locking in, because then once the locking's in, we can see why we need to do the file handling. So essentially in here, I need to, so I'm locking texture lock and then old texture lock. Let me make a note of that first, because that's useful information. So already the render method is protected as long as we lock against those two, and you have to lock against them in that order, otherwise you get a race condition, which is demonstrated by the dining philosopher's problem, which you don't know what that is and you're interested in programming. Go and have a look of the dining philosopher's conundrum, and you'll see what that means. It explains a common situation quite nicely. Yes, you can update Steam Store root, Shrubku. You have to clone them to upload them as a different root, but as long as they don't use any different assets, it's no problem at all. Right, I'm going to get rid of that log spam. I don't want that. You just bought Train Simulator 2015. What'd you do that for, Tutus? Grinshaft, why 2 locks? Separate read-write access. I wrote this code a while ago. This may not be the right way of doing it, the best way of doing it, sorry. Because originally I only had the one texture in it. It's because I've got 2 textures. I've got and I manage them separately because it only normally needs access to one, but it does have to lock both of them. So why don't I just have a single lock? I probably only need a single lock. Because originally there was a race condition, because I think in this function I had them switched around the wrong way, which was yeah, that caused problems. So let me have a look at where old texture lock is being referenced. I don't really need old texture lock, do I? It's sort of rubbish. That'll make life easier if I don't need old texture lock. As long as I always lock against texture lock. Which is what I need to do in a minute. That looks texture lock. That looks texture lock. So that's all fine. Now I just need check loco. So it's going to come all the way in here and lock texture lock. And then in here it's going to do that. Hey Deltic Dan, I am very good. The weather's glorious out there, that's why I'm here. Now the problem here that certainly that I see, there's no reason why this won't work, but this is still going to lock everything up. So while I'm in this lock block here, this lock block won't happen, because it will sit waiting here until the lock is released. So what I want to try and do, so that's eliminated all the networking stuff from the lock area, which is good, so we're only doing it while that bit. But it feels like I can shrink this down even further, because under load texture, which is somewhere up here, load texture, the moment load texture actually does all the file handling and assigns it to that. Now if I separate those two out, I could do the file handling in a separate thread, and I can then do the assignment in the lock block. Now the assignment happens like that, and it's not going to get held up by other things accessing the file system. So if I separate out and have a set target texture, texture, and then in here I do the lock, texture lock, target. I can do all of this stuff in here. Target texture is texture. So that will streamline that, which means actually I don't need to do lock in here at all now, and I can just do return that, and that needs to return a texture. So that's separated those two out. Ironically, nothing is broken. How is nothing? Oh, because things just don't. Will assume. What else uses load texture? This does, of course. So let's move those out, that out, and say texture, new texture, and then in here I can say new texture equal, no, set target texture, new texture. Oh, caps lock. Right. Hey Adam Gamer. Hey Mr. Crispy. I don't know, for a programming scheme 26 isn't too bad. I mean, this one got up to about 50 last night, eventually. So it's now going to do the file handling outside. I'll have a look at that Grunerschaft, not right now, but I will make a note and I will have a look at ReadWriter Lock Slim. I've not heard of that one before. The set method does indeed already contain a lock, yes, but that doesn't cause a problem. And if I go in to make target old texture, that already does a lock as well, actually. That manages the switch around from those two textures, which means I don't need to do a lock outside at all. However, the problem with doing a lock, with not doing a lock outside, is that I would have two separate locks, which means that they would then happen potentially with a gap with other stuff in the middle. Whereas if I put a super lock around the outside, then they must happen together as one atomic operation. So I think I'm going to leave the super lock in there, just to make sure that those two happen without any gap for any other processing to go in between them. The fact that they also lock is kind of irrelevant. If this thread has already got the lock, it just carries on. So update crossfade, checks old texture. Am I actually using them separately at all? No. No, they only get used in this instance here. I mean, I could get rid of the locks from inside, but then that doesn't feel right because these must have the lock there. So not locking means I'll be relying on something calling this call to know it must lock, which seems likely to go wrong in the future. I don't think having multiple nested locks of the same thing has had any particular performance overhead. So right, let's build the plugin. Let's go and deploy it. A single method. Oh, that's not a bad shout, actually, Gronus. That's not a bad shout. Because I can do that one. Actually, make target. Yeah, it's only called in the one place. Yeah, that's not a bad shout. We'll do that. We'll put that in there. So let's clear out the all those textures. And then just do that one there and get rid of that function altogether. Better, better. Now I don't need this lock here because that's already been managed internally. Good. Rebuild that and do it that way. Right, I need to go to plugin folder. And I need to find OBS, program files, OBS, plugins, CLR host. Right, that is where it needs to be copied to. Let's minimize that. I need a copy of the game. Well, let's copy the plugin in first before we forget and wonder why nothing's different. Well, actually, in theory, nothing will be different. The test pass really is if we don't notice anything. Where is it? I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, we need multi, I need Steam. Find the game, where are you? Train Simulator. Let's wait for the game to run. Well, we've done the to-do list. We just have to make sure it works. This might be a short stream. Right, so OBS now needs to run, which is that one. Switch the game off for the time being, and we need to add the plugin back in, but let's get the preview running first. Now remember, when I've got all this lot running, the machine slows to a crawl. That's the wrong thing. Add cap background selector. That's the settings, they're all good. Oh, so yesterday we made it to where when you pressed the save button, it sent a cancel message, which means it's no longer adding it to the sources. Whoops. So we have to manage that. We have to deal with that. So I knew that it would come and bite me in the backside at some point. So at the moment we're sending a cancel, because when we send an OK, OBS is resizing the bloomin' thing. I don't know why. It's possibly calling another method to find out what size it should reset itself to, and I don't know what that method is at the moment. So I'm probably returning the wrong answer, and so it's resizing itself. I'm just going to change that to an OK for the time being. And let's add that. Save. Oh, hang on. Restart OBS. It might have a better chance of running. Good. Right, it's on there now. I think we've got an exception going on here somewhere. Let's add a default. At the moment we don't have a default in here. There it is, which means that in here I need to show, I need to set SD40-2 for the default, I think. So the image needs to be default.jpg. Looking over that code thinking, that's rubbish, what am I doing wrong here? Better. Slightly less disgusting. So now, my brain's just not working today, I'm running slow. So now if I hit preview, There's the cab image, that's the default we set up. So we'll put that there so we can see it clearly. Let me get the free roam up. Just waiting for Train Sim to load the free roam test scenario. I think what I'll do is I'll stop this from running, because then that will give some more CPU to the game. There you go. All of a sudden the game's loaded. So, is it preview? What I could do is re-enable that so that we can see. You can see what I'm seeing on the game without having to share the game so much. There you go. So, if I now, this is kind of messed up, isn't it? It's a stream within a stream. If I now select the 66, apparently nothing happens. What if I select the Javelin? Jeep. Okay, so I've broken it. So let's have a look at the code, sorry, the log file, and find out what the log was saying. And just shut OBS down. Oh, I've not broken it. I'm not running the. I'm not running the software, the server software. It's in C temp. I need to run TS Connect. And start that server. Now run this. Hit preview. Right, we've got the GP38 cab, and if I select the SD40, I think it's just running a bit incredibly slow now. It's not fading anymore. I broke fade. Right, let's try and work out why I broke fade. I wonder if it's because I'm locking on that. Fade wasn't anything too special, but I liked it. And if we're done with that, then we're kind of finished. I'm not done yet. We've got plenty. I've got time that I allocated to doing this, so I've got plenty of time to look at it. Because that's pretty much it. The plugin's working. Other than setting up hundreds of locos and making and doing that bit, that's just a whole new element of tedium that I can do another day. I want the fade to work because I like it. Interesting. OBS has died. According to this, it was picking all the changes up. It was encoder lag, so it's just over the top. There's nothing wrong with it except for the fact the machine's just doing too much. Let me just turn all the settings right down on my train sim so that it uses absolutely as little as possible. Because I really don't care what it looks like at the moment. Let's wait for it to come back up. Eventually. Excuse me. Well, we might have enough headroom to make it fit now. Let's see what happens. Sure, it's going to look ropey, but never mind. Actually, speaking of making it look ropey, let's turn dynamic lighting off. That'll make it look even more ropey, but use a lot less resources. Can't really tell anything if the system has not got enough resources to make it work. So next on the list of things I'm going to look at, not necessarily today, but is TS Connect, which is the thing that connects to all of the rail driver and so forth. It does. This thing is just like a Swiss Army knife of stuff these days. There's things like the designer that I implemented. That's about as far as I got with it. It kind of works, but I use it for creating the needles and on the gauges and so forth. There's configuration, which doesn't do anything at all. Calibration, which does very little. FIP order, which does nothing at all. The notch tool, which does very little. I started with it, but again, it doesn't actually go very far. What this does is it writes some of the Lua code for you, so you can say number of notches. So if the minimum's 0, the maximum's 500, there are 5 notches, and the control is regulator. I can click setup, and it will write all the code for me, and then put them in there. And then the idea is that I can tweak and adjust them. If I want to say make that one 45. Except apparently I did get that working, so yeah, it adjusts it, and it will also show so you can see what the notches are like for the system. So that's something I started working on, but it's not very good. So really, I want to go through and fix and get some more functionality into this thing and make it. Also make the user interface prettier. I mean, it's pretty awful at the moment. Right, so we have the game. Let's get into the free roam and then just have a look at what's going on with it. So just to reiterate, I've turned all the settings of my train sim pretty much right down, so it's going to look like rubbish. But the hope is that there'll be enough headroom to get 2 copies of OBS effectively streaming and the game running. Oh wow, this does look stupendously bad, but you know what? The frame rate is out of this world. How bad does this look? I've got all the scenery turned off. No, it's still saying high encoding. Oh, it did eventually update. What I could do is... if I drop that right down... Okay. This was running much better last night. I can only assume it's the threading that's at fault. If I put that in there, then that protects that anyway. Put some logging in there and see if it even thinks it's trying to do the crossfading. Wow, that's performing badly. Okay, so at no point does it ever actually think that it's crossfading. That's the problem. I wonder if this is a transience issue. Because that means crossfade is never getting set to true. But since this is setting it in a different method, I wonder if this is... How do I... Volatile. How do I mark it volatile? I just have to mark slide alpha and crossfading as volatile. So what's happening is that it's optimizing out those variables so they're accessed internally in each thread, which means then when they change, they don't change in the other place. Even though it looks like they're one thread, by the time the compiler's optimized it, they're two different ones. This crossfading, one for each thread. And by marking them as volatile, it won't optimize them out. They'll all talk to they'll forces them to talk to the same instance. Wow, that's running badly. So that hasn't made any difference whatsoever. So I'm just reading something at the moment. Tri-Rail, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Okay. So, rather than marking these as volatile, well, that's no use, is it? I suggest that needs to be locked as well. I think actually they need to be, these do need to be volatile, but that's not the entire solution. See, where this becomes a problem is when you've got multiple cores, you can have things running on entirely different CPUs, which means they don't necessarily have the same shared memory space, which is what's happening here. Check loco is doing something that needs the that's saving changes in variables, but then those changes aren't present on the other CPU. This is where multi-threading gets interesting. Interesting. So volatile should do the job, but maybe I need to do it within the context of the lock. Let's just try it. Brother66, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Hey Chris. So that didn't help. But actually I'm going to leave the lock in there, because otherwise I'm going to have something potentially fighting over that variable. And in fact, target texture could do that. It's done that. I wonder if that's causing it. You got an Xbox controller. Nice. Yeah, I always find the best bargains are to be had at places that don't have stock. Oh, CEX, you should be alright. A friend at work went and bought an Xbox controller there. I think it was £12 or something. Do a couple of changes. And then let's go and have a look and see what the logging is. Old texture is null, so clearing crossfade. Old texture is null. Old texture is null. Alright, okay, so it's not that the variable isn't being transitioned, it's because old texture is null, so it's clearing it in here. So how is the old texture null? That doesn't make any sense. Is set texture work? Set target texture working? Oh, you twit! First thing I do is clear the target texture, and then I copy the old target texture into old texture, which won't work. I need to put the dispose of old in, then copy target into old, then dispose target, and then put target in. Right. What a twit. Oops. OBS crashed. Now that might have been my plugin that brought it down. Let's find out. Yep, must be my program bringing it down now. Means I'm probably doing some other donkeyish things here as well. Yeah, I'm disposing of the thing. I'm putting it into old texture, and then I'm disposing of it. I actually don't want to do that, because it gets disposed when it goes out of old texture. So what I can do is in here, when the crossfade is complete, that's when I could dispose old texture, or I could just leave it there, frankly. Better. That's good. Right, so that's multi-threaded it now. Not that you can really see the benefits of it with the system running and completely overloaded as it is at the moment. Just to explain, show you why it's having trouble. That 99% is why it's having trouble, and that's OBS, Railworks. The TS Connect is getting I need to optimize TS Connect because that shouldn't be using 14%, but it's because it's getting hit quite hard with. We shouldn't be getting hit quite hard. We should be getting hit relatively quietly. So I don't know quite why TS Connect is using up so much processor. Let's have a quick look at what we are doing with TS Connect. Am I hitting it harder than I'm expecting? No, this should only be hitting it every 5 seconds. Hey there, InstaSim. It's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Now I just want to get some idea of what's going on in the logging. Polling server at 17 seconds, so the next one's 22 seconds. Then we have crossfade 28 seconds. So yeah, it's only polling every 5 seconds. So it's not. So in which case, TS Connect has no business using so much CPU. What are you doing? I bet TS Connect is hammering it for local updates. That wouldn't be too clever. Okay, right, alright. In that case, I think we might shift gears and have a look at TS Connect. What program am I making? So, let me just show you this so you can see. Because we've pretty much done this now, I think. It seems to basically be working. So the idea is that I've got Train Sim running here. Forgive the graphics, I've got them turned right down because I'm struggling on CPU now. Running lots of OBSs and the game and other things running. But the idea is, I'm on the GP38. If I switch to the SD40, then a few moments later, the background image automatically changes to one of an SD40. And if I switch to the Javelin, then a few moments later, it changes to a Javelin. And if I change to the 66, it changes to the class 66. So the idea is that this goes up here behind my green screen, so that I can I don't have to change the backgrounds myself. The game will the OBS plugin just does it all for me. So let's have a quick look at TS Connect then and find out what's going on with TS Connect. I'm going to shut the game down for a minute, shut that noise up, shut that up, and let me just find the project. Right. So, in here, and this code isn't particularly pretty. Is that what TS Connect is? So TS Connect, no, TS Connect is you're guessing having the animation, the train window won't display on the green screen. Yeah, there's no reason why it won't. You can put anything you like. It's just layering two things on top. So if this changes gently, then it will work perfectly well. I can't show you on the mainstream because the main OBS, I don't think it's got the plugin. I wonder what happens if I do this. If this crashes, I'll have to restart. Yeah, this has got the old version of the plugin, so I'll need to reset that to reset the stream for to see there. But yes, it will work quite happily actually. Should work no problem at all. Green screen stuff is really clever actually. There's nothing to stop you putting a video in the background. I was going to do that at some point where the windows are actually moving, because you could layer green screens as well. You can have, you know, the camera on top of a image that's got green bits and then have that on top of another image that's got more green bits, and you can layer things on top. So I could have a movie in the background of track moving that way, then put the cab image on top of that with green screened out windows, and then put me on top of that so that you'd see track moving on a static static cab image. So that's another project to have a look at. But then the only reason I thought about not doing that was because then all the time I'm doing anything, that video is playing. I'm just trying to think, how much resource do I want to spend on this? If this was running on its own machine, which in the future is what I want to do, then it's different. But if it's running on the machine playing the game, then I kind of want all the resources spent on the game. So I want to be a little bit careful how much we throw at it. So what is TS Connect? TS Connect is this thing. TS Connect is how I drive my console. If you haven't seen it, it's cable not long enough. This is the rail driver. These are the panels here. So if you've seen me on the stream, you've seen the control panel, and you've seen what it does. It's this software that drives all of that stuff. And it's also it's my custom rail driver software as well. I don't use the official rail driver software. This is my rail driver software. So I wanted to have a look in this particularly to have a look and find out what. This also works because I can network it. So historically I've had machines with minimal USB ports and they've not liked USB hubs, and all these consoles and the little mini screens on the console system, they have they're each one USB port. The BIP is a USB port. They're all back into two hubs. Those two hubs go back into a PC, and all of that was having major problems on the laptop, the big laptop I was using a while back. Whereas on the Dell laptop, they connect and they work absolutely perfectly. Now, no, I don't want to stream on this laptop, not the game. So the idea is that it would, I can run all the gauges and the rail driver on this Dell laptop, sitting over there somewhere. Put the game on a nice fast machine, and then TS Connect links the two together over the network, so that the rail driver is not connected onto the same machine as where the game is running. It's all done over the network, which is something that the PI software can't do, and most people frankly don't need that. So yeah, this networks the whole thing up, and it also means that I can run the map on a different machine. It does actually have a little bit of multiplayer-y sort of stuff in it. I've been experimenting with a firing system. So this is a Steam firing system, which kind of means that someone who's got this on a different machine can pull up the firing controls and operate the firing controls separately to someone driving the train. So you can effectively have two people driving the train. This is only for Steam engines. It's flaky. It kind of works. It would need a lot of work to go any further with, but the principle kind of works. So it's just, this is sort of my experimentation pod. Now, I'm using this as a means. The reason I'm using TS Connect in this instance for that plugin is because in order to talk to TrainSim, you need to load the DLL file for TrainSim, and the DLL for TrainSim, just like TrainSim, is 32-bit, but my OBS plugin runs in OBS 64-bit, and you can't bridge that gap. That doesn't work. So they have to run up in two separate processes and communicate with each other via sockets. Well, I've already got a 32-bit thing running up in sockets because that's what this is doing, and then I've got the plugin connecting via in sockets. It kind of works. Does that mean no more explosions because you forgot to fill the boiler water? Well, no, it might mean explosions because somebody else forgot to fill the boiler water, but at the moment nobody else can use this anyway, so it's sort of multiplayer for me. And I use the term multiplayer extremely loosely. Right, so the reason I'm looking at this right now is because TS Connect seems to be having quite a large CPU load when it's running, and that's a little bit concerning. So I'm going to fire up Form 1, and when Form is running, this is all the initialization junk. So there is a thread that's running in here. It's near the bottom if memory serves. Handle map? No. How I go? Heartbeat. So Heartbeat is going to do handle loco change detection, tunnel change detection. It's going to cause the inline tick. It's then going to do the input map request, for the Thomson controller, which nobody else here has actually seen. It's like a rail driver, but it's about it's enormous. There's only ever one of them, well, one or two of them been made a long time ago now. It's about 9 years old, well, not 9 years old, but it's a good few years old now, that controller, but it's quite amusing. And then we're going to thread sleep for digit refresh. Let's just remind ourselves what digit refresh is. Where's the configuration? There it is. So digit refresh is 50 milliseconds, so it's only going to pause for 50 milliseconds, which isn't a problem, in theory. It's archaic. I wouldn't call it that, it's quite cool actually. I don't know if I can get to it at the moment. Yeah, it's fairly well buried. I'll see if I can dig it out another time. But yeah, it's about twice the length of a rail driver, about probably 50% again deep. And it's got lovely big levers and lots of functions. It's got TPWS readout lights and things on it. It's very cool. What does that do if I haven't got it plugged in? If not, is operational return. Good, so that's not going to be causing me any problem. So handle loco change detection. So every 50 milliseconds I'm going to be going to the server and asking for the current loco. That seems excessive. Quite significantly excessive, in fact. Handle tunnel change detection. It's getting a controller value every 50 milliseconds. That seems possibly excessive. So it's a classic first generation rail driver. Well, it was done after rail driver. It was done quite a long time after rail driver, in fact, and the goal of creating it, I think, was to use much more substantial switches and levers and so forth in it. If I remember rightly, the manufacturing cost of one of these controllers is about 20 grand UK. Because it's like 1,500 quid just for one of the levers that it's using on it. So that it's a really substantially expensive bit of kit to make, not for necessarily a good reason, and that's one of the reasons it never went any further. But it was, it's got, it's really quite nice to drive. The controls have got a really nice feel to them. But that kind of money, you'd kind of expect it to. So what is inline tick doing? So inline tick is calling all the Lua ticks to go through. So I kind of need to do all the Lua ticks because that's what updates all the UI on the console. But I think 50 milliseconds is feeling, for a start, I think 50 milliseconds is feeling quite short. I think we could possibly make that every fifth of a second. So let's change the default configuration to 200, and also I think I can change loco change detection and tunnel change. Well, loco and tunnel change detection. Loco change could be every 5 seconds, the same as we've got it on the other one. Last loco change, check. And tunnel change. Can be every second, to be honest. So that means in here date time.now minus last loco change check if diff dot total seconds greater than equal 5, then do that stuff, and at the same time last loco change check is date time dot now. So that will slow that down, so that will do an awful lot less. Inline tick just needs to happen fairly rapidly. Handle tunnel change detection needs to be reasonably rapid, otherwise it's not going to work, but we can make it much less rapid than it is at the moment. So what we'll do is especially since in most cases the tunnel change thing doesn't even work. So 1 second for now. Last tunnel change check, and then we'll put that stuff under there. Right, so that's slowed that down to every 5 seconds. That's slowed that down to every 1 second. Inline tick is every beat, so 200 milliseconds. That just returns immediately if I haven't got one of those connected. That does the pause. What does handle map then do, and why is that below the pause? It's bizarre. Doesn't really matter. So if a map viewer is showing, then we run that and keep the map up to date. I think every 200 milliseconds is perfectly fine for that. That's getting the latitude and longitude from the game, get the speed, and then we can update the map with that. So that's what does the map overlay, or part of the code that handles the map overlay. The other thing is if I close the map it crashes it. Let's fix that as well. Seriously, the compiler is complaining because some code that it provided doesn't work. Don't care. Oh no, this is indirect output.cs. I see. Overrides equals but doesn't override get hash code. Yeah, that is kind of bad form actually. Hacking a get hash code in. This is not a good way of doing get hash code. Right, I should have less to complain about now. Take that out. Hopefully that means we've got a clean build. Good. So if I now run this, code is up. Well, that's good. Now it's not showing anywhere at all. Where is it? BSR, VS host, 7%. Still, what's it doing? Oh, all the tick for the panels is going to be consuming most of that time. And speech recognition is running. Interesting. Okay. Let me turn speech off. Just going to comment that out, put it out of there as well. That seems to have had no effect whatsoever, so I'm going to re-enable it again. When it says it can't publish, Brocrafter, is it giving you an error message why it can't publish? If I come in here and switch off inline tick, just to see whether that's the one causing all of the delays, I suspect it is. No, it's still saying 7%. Shouldn't be doing anything at the moment. So let's turn off that, turn off that, turn off that. So all this is an empty loop that's doing nothing. Nothing at all. Heartbeat is a thread. And that's it. So that's all I'm running as a thread. You don't have to understand it, Brocraft. You just need to tell me what the error message is, then I can help you. Put that one back in. Put that one back in. Right. Well, next time it happens, Brocraft, to keep an eye, make a note of what the error message is, and then let me know what, and I'll see if I can help you. So these are all the threads that are running. Let's have a quick look at what they're actually. 9276 is the one doing the heartbeat work. Connection monitor is looping every second. LCD updates thread. That's spinning 1,000 times a second. And worse than that, it's doing 8 of those. Which one are we in? 9.3. That one. 664, it's not that. Not that. It's not the main thread. So the problem is the LCD updates, I think. Which is ironic given that they're not even connected. So this is doing a thread.sleep1 spinning around, but you can only do 15 updates of this per second. Even if you try and update it more than that, it won't actually work. Alright, let's oops. Let's slow that down to every 100 milliseconds. So you get 10 frames per second to the LCDs, which is actually enough. Now what's the CPU like? Ooh, look at that. 0.2%. That's a bit nicer. Right, let me plug a panel in so that I can even make sure this is all still working. It's all very well being efficient if it's efficient and broken. Get in there. Right. Right. Let's get them console powered on. So I've got 4 panels now showing. No idea if this is going to work. I can't remember if this camera's plugged in or not. No, it isn't. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah, right. I haven't a clue where it is. Never mind then. Right. Changing cameras midstream. What can go wrong? Waiting for it to finish doing its messing about. While it's doing that, let's get the game running. Can't believe I'd left that in there, sitting there doing 1,000 updates per second. That's stupid. Right, now what happens if I add video capture? Oh, there's a Microsoft camera. That's not showing anything. Oh well. Nice try, it didn't work. Right, I've got the game running. Let's make sure now when I fire this up, it should now say it's got 4 ProFlight FIPs connected. So if I now fire up the game, I'll just do my free roam for the time being, that will do. So the ProFlight FIPs are the screen panels that I put gauges on the dashboard, on the control panel. So that's those things there. So if I now click on a loco, well, that's a good sign. They're still there. Let's just have a quick look at the processor usage. We're up to 5% now, which is still significantly lower than the 20 odd it was doing before. Let's release the brakes. Put it on the screen so you can see it too. It's good, that's updating. I put brakes on. That seems to be updating alright as well. Smashing! So we haven't broke anything, but we have made it take massively less CPU. For the win. Good. That's running much nicer. Oh, I'm quite pleased with that. That's a major result. That's massively improved the performance of all that. Stop TS Connect. Map. I was going to make it to where when I shut the map it doesn't blow it up. Basically I'm not clearing a reference out when I'm not detecting the window's closed and clearing a reference out, so when it tries to update it explodes. Brocraft, you don't have to keep saying the same thing. I'm just waiting for you to type the message. Right, so if I open the map, so this is the map view, and then I close that, I think I might need the game running to actually make it crash. Hang on. Because I think it's when it updates the location it goes pop. Pop. Wait for the game to start. What we'll do, to finish off, we'll just run the plugin again. Hopefully, with TS Connect taking up a lot less CPU, we should be in a much better state for just proving that the plugin works okay. God, any time. Oh, here he comes. Wait for it to finish loading. It's just running into the free roam at the moment. So if I... Oh, there you go. We just went pop. That was what I was looking for. It tried to do an update and went bang because the window that it's trying to update hasn't been done. Or doesn't exist yet. It went away, essentially. So map viewer doesn't actually exist anymore. So why did I try and call update on something that doesn't exist? I've got the game whirring away in the background at me. So what are the things that call that? Calls to update is handle map. It calls mapviewer.update. It should only do that if mapviewer is not equal to null. So let's have a look at map viewer. Is it map viewer? Yeah, it's map viewer is a I put that on a subfolder. Look at me being tidy. So in the events, form closing, this needs to notify the main application delegate void the closing. Creative Turtle, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Try again, Brocrafter. And I want to create an event. And I want to have a fire on void, fire on close. And what that will do is if on close not equal null, then on close, that's all I need to do. That will issue that. And then in here, if I'm form closing, I need to do fire on close. And then back in the main application, when I create map viewer, if map viewer is null, then create a new one, and then I also want a map viewer dot on close plus equal on map close, and then public void on map close, which says map viewer equals null. Ba-boom. Now when I close the window, it should notify it and say it's closed. Let's have a look at the output, shall we? Excellent. Right, so that creates that. This opens up the map view, which is all very pretty. If I now want the train to move, there we are in Wildenrath. You can see we're moving. So now if I close this window, It didn't go bang. Pop the window open again. And it's still working. Oh, that's that. Let's fix that. That bug was just annoying. It meant if I ever opened the window, I didn't dare close it. That's better. Good. Now the only other thing I want to look at should be quick, hopefully, is I want to have something in here which is to disable the joystick. And then in configuration, applicable disable joystick, get private set. You took too long to paste it again, Procrafter. Right, so that's added disable joystick. Now the reason for this is that I want to plug the Xbox controller in so that I can use it. But the problem is that it's creating the TS Connect then says, oh, you've got a joystick, and tries to actually use that as an interface into the game. So I need to have a more substantial way of switching devices off, but for the time being we'll just have disabled joystick, and then when the form comes up, where are you, form? There you are. So it's detecting joysticks. If configuration manager dot instance dot disable joystick, not disable joystick, then and only then I will let you enable the joystick stuff. Root is missing, required file. Right, so essentially you need to go into the Railworks folder, go into content, roots, exactly the path it's saying, create the folders that if you need do, like root information and en, and then create those two files. So you want image.png is just a you can if you look at any other root, which is just those GUID folder, the big long numbers, you'll see exactly root information and so forth in there. Copy them into your folder. And you'll see what I mean. Let me pop up and explore. I'll show you what I mean. So in Railworks, so you need to find wherever you've installed Railworks. By default, it'd be something like C Program Files, x86, Steam Apps, Common, Railworks, something like that. And then you go into Content, which it says Roots. And then in here you pick a root, so let's pick that one. There's a root information, and in there's an image PNG, and then under EN there is a description. So image PNG is, what is it? 256 by 144, and that's used as the thumbnail inside the user interface. So copy it. If you don't want to create these things just yet, just literally copy the root information folder from another root, put it in your root, and it'll be fine. But I would suggest you just take a screenshot, put it in image PNG, and then the description file. I won't open it. I have no idea what it is. But the description file is just a piece of simple HTML. Have a look at the ones that are in there and edit them to your tastes. If you do a create new root, it should create them in the new root. So, but if you clone, it won't. If they weren't already there. So if you create a new root and then copy the ones it creates into your thing, then you'll get blanks, essentially. Right, so that has now enabled me to do that. So I'm going to rebuild that. Where's my Xbox controller? So the first thing I'm going to prove, if I unplug you, is plug the Xbox controller in. It's there. If I now run TS Connect, it says I've got a joystick. Boo! I didn't want it to say I've got a joystick. What did I set the configuration to? Disable joystick true. So what have I done then? No joystick, then I don't need to do that either. Oh, nothing is reading that in. Twit! I need to read in disabled joystick in configuration manager. Like that. What I'm going to do, Brocrafter, because it's really difficult for me to, other than what I've already shown you, it's really difficult to explain it just in a one-way conversation over Twitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at writing a blog post on my trainsimlive.blogspot.co.uk, which just says what to do if that root is missing required file error. And then you can read that and understand it at your own pace. What have I messed up here? Oh, I need to convert it. Right, so now we're reading correctly. I think at the moment I do only read, I don't actually do any writing of the config back yet. On account of a lack of settings file. Right. Now if I run it, hopefully I don't get a joystick. Right. Still says joystick. That's just annoying. Is it under config general? Config general disable hyphen joystick. Right. So it's got the right document loaded. So if I now step over that, disable joystick is set to true. So if I now go back to form, Apparently nothing is calling that. Oh, it's already done that, possibly. Oh, hello. Are we reading configuration after we've done all the initialization? That would be silly. Does configuration manager reload on create on construction? It initialized, does it? So when do I do that? Just after all the joysticks. Seriously? Why is it not happening at the beginning? Who wrote this code? Shh, don't answer that question. Hey Haddock. Where will it be? It'll just be the latest post. Oh, I've still got it running, so... no, I don't have it running. Why will you not compile? It's got itself in a knot now. It thinks it's running, but it's not. Shut down Studio and reload it. Have I posted it yet? No, I'm busy doing a stream, Brocraft. You'll have to wait. It'll be sometime this weekend. It won't be immediately. I've got a lot to do this weekend. Right, run that. And sure enough, we no longer have a joystick being detected. Woohoo! Let's just go back into the map and make sure it's also not doing anything. I don't see how it can be. All the events have been prevented from being set up, but let's make sure that it's just the game driving the Xbox controller and not TS Connect. Yes, the graphics look really bad because I've turned all the settings down because we were having frame rate problems earlier on while running all of the tests. Right, okay, so we've got the ability to control this, and if I select a train, it's driving that, but if I come out, then it's not driving it. And the problem is, with TS Connect running, that would be driving it right now, because in the 8 mode it's not supposed to. Right, so Bowcrafter, do I do streams on the weekend? I don't normally do streams on the weekend, no. So let me come out of that for a minute and restart TS Connect, but this time start it with disabled joystick false, so in case I actually wanted to use a joystick. Now it's picked up a joystick direct input device, which is super duper. Hit replay. Now we should see TS Connect actually interfering with the joystick operation as well. So that still works fine. That works fine. If I press A, it's not doing anything. Interesting. So why was this causing me a problem before? Okay. Doesn't seem to be causing me a problem. Oh, here we go. So that's doing something. That's doing something. That's kind of doing something, but nothing useful. The throttle reverser's not doing anything. Right. So now if I shut dual, make that true. It's now not picked up the direct input. And now the handling of the device is much different, because now a lot of it's not doing anything. That's the only thing that actually does, strangely enough. Which means that that's much better. That means I can leave the Xbox controller plugged in and not have to remember to plug it in after I've started TS Connect, which is a true epic pain. Right, so I think that'll do for tonight. I've got to get dinner on the go now. So thanks very much everyone for watching. What we did today, we finished off the plugin for changing the background. Let's just fire that up again so that we can see it working. Got TS Connect running here, and we'll tell it to start the server. We'll take this, preview the stream. Right. We come into here, and we're running that. Switch to the Javelin. And it changes. Switch to the Jeep. And it changes. Everything seems much happier, performance-wise as well. There you go. So the plugin is working. We've optimized TS Connect, which is good. And tweaked some of its features just a little bit. So that's basically it for now. What we've been doing here. It's just over 2 hours. That's long enough for the time being. I've got relatives visiting or parents visiting this evening, so I need to get ready for that after having got dinner for the kids and so forth. So I can't sit here streaming all night as much as I want to. Thanks, Brocrafter. I've got loads of friend requests to look at on Steam, and I don't accept everybody, to be honest. Don't take it personally, but my friend list on Steam is just getting stupid to the point I'm ignoring everybody, all my friends now on Steam as well, because there's too many. So I'm going to rethink my friend list on Steam, I think, because it's useless at the moment. And people keep sending me messages while I'm streaming, which is slightly annoying. So I think I might do another coding stream or something tomorrow night. We'll see. I don't know yet. But that's been a good stream. I'm really glad we've got that functionality sorted for the plugin and fixed those bits on TS Connect. So thanks very much, everybody. I will see you hope possibly tomorrow, but failing that, fingers crossed, with the PC on Monday, or failing that, Tuesday, or failing that, one of the days after that. So keep an eye on Facebook and Twitter, and I will put a note on there and let you know what the plans are. I'll also have a look. If you look below, there's Twitch have got a thing like a Facebook wall. I'll try and keep an update going on there when I've got something more concrete. I'm not just going to keep guessing when things are going to happen now. I'm going to try and keep it concrete. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. Thanks very much, everyone, and I'll see you later on. Bye bye.